Because what I learned, sort of watching my dad's life play out, is how much people have to say without, the context of actually knowing you sometimes. And living a life of integrity, or just being completely grounded and fixed in your truth and your principles, means that you can go to sleep every night.
You also spoke about how you wanted to find a way to eternalize the gift that your dad had given to you, the gift of being. What is the gift of being?
Very significant things in society. I just kind of had the assumption that, okay, we all have some kind of great calling and purpose that we're supposed to pursue.
I was asking, about your name.
So it's
Dangos.
a Damara name.
Yes.
I have one.
Yeah.
As far as I understand, because I might be wrong, because it's one of the two. I have one, and then she has one, so
Okay.
a third person, and it's between Dangos and Dandagos.
Okay.
It's they both have those meanings,
Okay.
so it's the same thing, but those two different perspectives.
Because it's such a beautiful name, but I've also never heard of it. That I was thinking, is it a real name or is it a surname? It's not a surname. I mean, like
I made my
a
name
nickname. Yeah, but have you ever heard of it before? Like
No.
anywhere else?
No, because Damara speaking people often think that my dad named me wrongly and he meant to say Dandagos, because it's not, I don't know, it's not, the phrasing is not common in Damara either.
Yes.
But that's exactly what he meant to do.
That's beautiful. Welcome to Uninterrupted.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here. I wanted to have you immediately when I read about your fashion line.
Yes.
But more than anything, don't worry, it's gonna survive. So I wanted to. For me, it was more than just fashion line, right? It's the values behind it and what it represents for you. But I want you to first of all, take us through the name itself.
So the name, initially I had the name Hawa.
Yes.
And Hawa is Swahili. And I liked it's a feminine name, and it's kind of means, it's like an ethereal vibe of like air and passion and like wistfulness that I wanted to sort of capture in the collection. And we ran with that, but it was always the name of the collection.
Yes.
And then when they published it, people were just making all these jokes.
Yes.
And I felt like they were making fun of the name as well.
Yes.
So that gave me even more of an impetus to change the name. So the brand's name now is Ahalie.
Okay.
Which is, I've kind of played with the word itself because it's Ahali that comes from Swahili as well. So it's like Swahili and Turkish and Arabic all have a similar root word. And it means kinfolk or family.
Okay.
Community.
Yeah.
And I wanted the brand to be founded in the sense of identity as Namibians. That's why I didn't want to pick a particular Namibian language, because I didn't want to isolate any. And I think I stole this sort of methodology from my dad, because he would do the same thing with like Harambe.
Yes.
So it came from Swahili, but the meaning to me was unifying in that sense of like a collective identity, that I want the brand to sort of be emblematic of this identity, contemporary identity that we're forging as Namibians. And what that means, what that looks like, what it feels like to embody in clothes.
Yeah, and you mentioned family as one of the values, and you're big on family. When I go on social media, I immediately am able to tell that you're big on family, whether it's your siblings, the love that you have for your dad, and it's your friends. What kind of family did you grow up in, and family also extending to friends or people that are close to you?
So I think initially, well, first off, like our home was always an open the space for people to come, and my parents always, invited people to share our space. And so I grew up, I think, forcibly, because I think I'm inherently a bit shy, but forcibly, like, interacting with people and having to observe and understand people. That's just socially, but so our family was, obviously my parents were married. My mom's name is Loini, not Monica. And then my dad, and then it was just me and my youngest brother, Age Jr. Because all my other siblings are a lot older. And so it was kind of just like us, and so you kind of get used to your own company. But we did travel a lot with my parents, and so kind of just like very much observant, because it was this kind of environment where there's like a lot of moving parts to everything that he has going on and everyone around him. So you're always just kind of like literally a fly on the wall and like observing and learning a lot all the time.
And what did that teach you in terms of like the traveling or just sitting in, whether it's meeting public figures and all that? What did you learn about that?
First and foremost, I think when I started to get older, I think I started to realize that I feel part of something bigger than myself. And I feel like watching my parents sort of do seemingly very important things and very significant things in society, I just kind of had the assumption that, okay, we all have some kind of great calling and purpose that we're supposed to pursue. So definitely,
Yeah, that's really beautiful way of looking at it. And did that in a way kind of push you or influence you to find your own purpose?
Yes, but I think then, because, like I said, you're kind of not even necessarily apart when you're just a kid, you're just sort of in the mix. But you're around this big machine that sort of moves to do important things. And there's not really that moment for you from like your support structure all the time, because they are busy doing big important things. And you kind of have to figure it out on your own a little bit. And that's why, but I feel like I've had the privilege and so many chances to explore all over and learn about completely contrasting different sort of domains, and figure out like if they work for me, if they don't, and I've tried a lot of things and learned a lot in that process, but fashion has always kind of been this consistent thing, or just like creative arts and things that use expression and storytelling and aesthetics and things, has always kind of been what I gravitate towards. Initially, I thought it was actually going to be music. I never told anyone
but
that.
Two things can exist in one, so you could do
trust
both.
Me, it's not music.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And how your fashion line came about, you had mentioned in one of the articles that I had read, was a way for you to channel healing and hope. And I want to say why that resonated with me so much was that when my mom was at her lowest, when she really started to get ill and frail, I would sort of like want to give her hope by promising her what my future would be like. And I would tell her, no, I'm going to be on television and I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. And I would see her kind of like hold on to that hope. And she would always give me the assurance that even if I'm not here, I want you to keep pushing this thing of being on TV. So for me, when my mom passed on, obviously she was a single mother, I lost a huge amount of hope, right? Because I felt like there was no reason to continue, even if I end up being on TV. She's not going to see me. Yeah, so that is something that was stopping me from going any further. But when I remembered that, the promise that I had made to her, that I want to be on TV and all the things that I said to her that I wanted to be, that's what brought me back to television. So in a way, I was also... it happened exactly a year after. So I was still like finding myself. I was still healing. And that's when I got onto television. So I was able to channel that pain that I had, the questions that I had, into the creative industry. So that's why I resonated a lot with what you said in that article. But why was it important for you to find something to sort of channel your healing and the journey of finding hope?
If I'm completely honest, it was not my idea. I didn't think to do that. And I was kind of stuck in terms of not knowing where to go from there, because it was Louise would come and visit a lot during that whole funeral period before we had even buried my dad, and he was kind of just like watching how everything was unfolding and how that kind of rested on me. And then immediately after that whole process, he reached out again and was, we just chatted, and he said, I think that you should just try fashion again. Like, I know you've been busy with some other things that are more just like business, and like come back to who I know you as to be, and try channeling some energy towards a creative outcome and see what that does for you. So it was actually his initiative, and then it made sense, like intuitively it makes sense. So I said, okay, fine. But then I'm like, okay, so I'm going to just come into your studio and help you like do some stuff. And he's like, no, you're doing your own brand. You're going to show at Winter Clash. And I'm like, that's not what I signed up for. This is supposed to be a healing process. And he's like, yeah, but just fully get into it. And so that's what we did.
But what did that do for you? In terms of that journey of finding your healing?
I can't really describe it. It did exactly that. It was so cathartic and so what I needed, and didn't even realize it. But I think it created space that was not immediately focused on the emotions that I was escaping, but it was still an emotional enough space to open up and connect to myself and the people that around me that I was working with. And you want to do interesting things, so you explore ideas, you're researching, you're looking around for inspiration. So I think it also changes your perspective, because suddenly I'm looking around and I'm looking for beautiful things around me to be inspired by and to use. So I think that was it was just like a more positive approach, and having a more positive take on how I was moving, because now I have to look around and look for beautiful things.
But what were your days like? And I don't want to say what were, but what are your days like when you are going through the process of healing? Because I think of my own process where I remember I would have like, it started out being like very positive, where I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful I was part of this person's life, and so grateful to have had like the last few moments, and just thankful to God. And then a few years later I went to like, why me though? Like, wait a bit, why me? And then the questioning, and then later on feeling like, okay, wait, I'm finding myself. I feel like I'm healing. I'm able to look at pictures. I'm able to think of memories in a very positive light, and not be emotional about it. And then I would then have moments again where I'm like, no, but wait, this is actually very painful. So what were your days, or what are your days like?
I also don't think I can really map a conscious trajectory of my grieving and healing process. But I can tell you that I do feel like it was very much delayed from when we left the hospital. There were people. People literally found out already to the hospital, and then at home it was people. So you had to kind of just be on throughout. And that was a month. And then everyone kind of goes, which happens, when the funeral's over, it goes so quiet. And then it's like, what do you do where do you go from here? What is life from here? And I don't think I've ever really even put my mind consciously to answering that or figuring that out ever since. And that's why grieving, like, it's coming up on a year now, and in my conscious mind, I don't even know what that means yet. Like, if you could have told me 6 months, you could have told me 3 weeks, I would believe you. Like, I don't, in terms of how I'm trying to resolve myself emotionally within, it's kind of still, and I just think it's more time.
It's more time.
And trying to do healthy things to move that process along.
Yeah.
Like channeling yourself through something creative or, therapy even.
Yeah, and what of course therapy very important, but what have you learned about yourself in that process of therapy? What have you learned about yourself?
Therapy?
Yeah.
I've been in therapy for over, I want to say since I was 18 now. And actually, I'm very grateful for the therapist that I've had currently, because when I started with her, she immediately recognized this maybe slightly excessive attachment that I had to my dad.
Yeah.
And she quickly learned, while he was still alive, years before he passed, and she, over time, began to address that and forced me to be increasingly aware that I'm my own person, own identity, own purpose, own existence, and that will continue if and when he's no longer. My dad has always been a lot older even than the parents of my age mates.
Yeah.
Like in school and things, you always kind of notice this. He's a bit grayer than the rest, you know?
But it's still my dad.
But that's my dad, though.
Yeah.
So there is this awareness that you might go through that a bit sooner than most of your friends. And it kind of creates that, because of that, it's singled out, it kind of creates this anticipation almost.
Yeah.
So I have always kind of had that, but I did nothing to be able to prepare for it, and you cannot prepare for it. But I do feel like she just helped me detach my identity so that I was able to not be caught up in his sort of like bubble, and then when he's not there anymore, where am I? Right? So she did me a solid on that one.
That's I'm listening to you now. I'm thinking, especially when you say about the whether it's the anxiety that, okay, this might happen. Obviously, it's at the back of your mind, but you can't do anything about it. But did you find yourself doing things like maybe spending a little bit more time with him?
I was clingy as heck.
Yeah.
That's why I think everyone calls me the daddy's girl. Of all my siblings, my younger brother and I probably have had the least time.
Yeah.
It's still a full lifetime and a very full life. Of quality time and amazing experiences and memories. But I did kind of hold on just that little bit longer. But yeah.
You also spoke about how you wanted to find a way to eternalize the gift that your dad had given to you, the gift of being. What is the gift of being?
Not just bringing me into this world, but I do recognize that I've been brought into an existence that has sort of revealed me a very unique perspective, especially in Namibia. Like, all the realities of life are within arm's reach from most of us. Socioeconomically, culturally, we all are not so far removed from each other that we can understand what it's like to have a little bit more or a little bit less, or be, from wherever. But then also the exposure to the world as well. Like, I've been able to see a lot of different things that maybe many people don't easily come by, and from a very young age. So I've always been trying to make sense of, okay, when I come back to school and like my everyday life, but I was just in, Argentina, and saw like a very different culture, and we ate very different food. So what does that mean, as a kid? And then sort of like understanding, again, socioeconomically, what these different realities mean, and sort of starting to try and locate yourself within that. And really, understand what's most important in life. I'm grateful for the perspective most in that it's I think maybe earlier than most, it's taught me what's important in life.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah, it's true. And you know, when you think about what is most important in life, you find that as human beings we're so fixated, whether it's things that we feel this is what is going to give my life value. In your own opinion, what do you think when you think of life that gives most people value is really important?
I think your character, your integrity, the principles that you live by, and because what I learned sort of watching my dad's life play out is how much people have to say without, you know, the context of actually knowing you sometimes. And living a life of integrity, or just being completely grounded and fixed in your truth and your principles, means that you can go to sleep every night because you know who you are, right? Like, that chatter is chatter because they're describing somebody that, like, I don't recognize a lot of the times listening to that stuff. And then it's like about yourself as well. I start to realize that, like, okay, cool, that perception is there and I actually can't do anything to control it either. But what I have and what I can hold on to, and it's valuable, it's very valuable to me because it keeps me sane, and it keeps me, it gives me peace of mind, is that I can sleep at night knowing the human being that I am. That person, I know myself, I'm honest with myself to be self-aware enough to, I know who I am, and that person is something that I'm okay with.
That's so beautiful.
I think that's valuable.
And I like how you obviously explain it, but it's something that a lot of people struggle with. It's the struggle of knowing who you are, that nobody has to tell you who you are. Because sometimes there's so many ideas that you start to believe each and every one of them. But how does one come to a point where they're like, this is who I am, and you can say whatever that you want to say about me, you can describe me in so many different ways, but this is who I am, and not derail from who you are?
I think firstly, the truth will set you free. So as soon as you can be, the sooner you can be honest with yourself, for better and worse, right?
Yeah.
Because there is no, I'm of the perspective that there's no perfect human being. So it's like the one that's trying to walk around, you know, projecting perfection, there's already like some disingenuousness there, right? And once you can be honest with yourself, and then you can embrace yourself, right? For what that is. And then, I won't lie, I think it's just over time when...
That's a journey.
You know, you've received, you've caught some bullets, even some strays sometimes, and then you grow thick skin, you know? And I'm still super sensitive sometimes, but not to people's words so much if I know it's not aligned with the truth. As I know it to be. So.
Yeah, and I ask specifically because I remember there was a moment where I, immediately after I had won, and I was on TLC, and I think also I was 20, I just turned 20, and I wanted to be loved.
Yeah.
You know, I really, really wanted to be loved, and I also thought, I'm just doing what I love, and since I love it, everybody's gonna love it, until I started receiving a bit of hate.
For no reason.
And then I thought, but wait a second, why? You've never met me, and you don't know who you are, and you're right.
You feel really strong about this, don't you?
Yes, and you would write like long paragraphs, whether it's on social media.
Yeah.
And that time I didn't know how to handle the whole social media thing. I'd go there and I'd read each comment. And if I would find like the good ones, I'd be like, probably just biased. And I'd be more fixated on the bad things that they would say. And I would find that I just have a horrible day. And here I am, like, supposed to be having like the best moment of my life, and I'm sad all the time because I keep reading like what some of the people would say that have never met me, that don't even know where I live, never had a conversation with me. They just look at you and like, this one, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to say, send.
You can't help it.
Yeah. So it's a journey, and for me, it's like what you said. Once you start to know who you are, you then stop being fixated on even reading the comments.
Right. Well, I think it is kind of human nature.
Yeah.
Like to, even if there's like sort of a train smash over there, you kind of like, you can't really help it.
Yeah.
And the same, with yourself. But I think so for me, what I tell myself is that I want to kind of be not completely removed from the negative things that people might think or say, because then you kind of might be in a little bit of a delulu bubble a little bit. And because guess what? Sometimes some of the negative things people say about you are true.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can glean from that if you can put sort of the initial emotional reaction to hearing something negative about yourself aside, and kind of take it on board for what it really is, if it's true. Then that becomes an opportunity to sort of improve, right?
But then how do you discern? Because it's actually such a good point. But how are you able to discern and take away the emotions of like, oh, you said something bad about me?
Well,
instead of like, okay, I think there might be a bit of truth here and there, and I can take that, because we tend to be overwhelmed by the emotions. You said something about me. Yeah.
I think the truth is the truth. It doesn't really have a flavor, but it is important to discern the intentions of someone who has something to say, because if the intention is good and this person to only ever have had your best interest at heart, and you still have an emotional reaction to it, then you might be a bit defensive for no reason, and they're just trying to help you see yourself, and catch yourself, and correct yourself. So and then even if it's coming from a hater, though, it might still be true, and you can still take it on board, and you can use the haters' words to make you better. So who gets the last laugh then?
Yes. Yes.
It's still an opportunity to be better. Why not take that?
Yeah. I think it's so true, and I never even thought about that. And it's such a good point in the sense that sometimes there can be good in the bad, and if you analyze, you're able to create and grow. If somebody says, oh, okay, I don't like this show because this show only has like celebrities, instead of like fixing on the emotions, it's like, how dare you not like my show? Okay, be like, okay, maybe I can improve and bring on different kind of people onto the platform. So I totally see where you what you mean by that. I am just kind of wondering, when you step into the fashion scene, obviously you're still quite new in it. What has been some of your fears?
I think I don't really have many at this point, at least. I think I just have concerns around sort of where the standard is at as I enter this industry, and as I find it, there's definitely a lot of improvement in terms of making it a commercially viable industry. And I think in terms of us as creatives starting to understand what that actually takes, because it is kind of not really within our purview as creatives, but there is a business spirit that has to be put, whatever it is. A doctor still needs to run a practice, right? So you can be the most gifted surgeon, but the part where you actually have to organize the patients and make sure everything runs on time and all of that, like it still requires that organizational, managerial business sense. And for some reason, as creatives, we're often so resistant to that. But it's important. And I think that maybe scares me a little bit about, just in terms of collaboration. I've really enjoyed collaborating with
Yes.
different kinds of creatives thus far. But that's probably going to be a challenge for us.
And it's good. And you look like you're obviously prepared should there be any challenges that comes about the industry, because challenges are good, because they remind you also that you need to probably push harder or find a way to do it better. But let's say 10 years from now, where would you want to see this brand be?
I know that. I know the answer to that, but let's see.
Yes.
Let's
see where it goes. Yeah. That's good. Do you think you're kind of channeling your own purpose through this brand?
Yes. I don't think that it's by mistake that I had someone very adamant about me doing this, and then the sort of spirit in which it was done was a very vulnerable and almost forced to be honest in the expression kind of space, because like I said, I wasn't really or putting this together with an idea of I'm trying to create this perception or make it look like anything. It was just kind of like, let's see where this process takes us and what this process yields. It's been a very authentic process that has made me realize how much more honest and more authentic I can be and put into that. And, still through even fashion and the storytelling, take on certain topics culturally and socially. I really want to do that and have, bring in certain conversations in the work that we're doing.
And you also mentioned the element of storytelling. When I'm always fascinated when people say storytelling, be it in music or in your case, fashion. What are some of the stories that fascinate you, that you would want to see, or the kind of women or the kind of people that you would want to see being represented in your fashion line or in the stories that you want to tell?
I think overarchingly in the brand, I'm sort of settling into this idea of just the empowered, liberated, contemporary Namibian who sees opportunity and is, I want to say self-aware, but even just was willing to take the initiative to do the things that they want to do and be the things that they want to be in the world, in the context of the world and not just Namibia, but carrying that intrinsically Namibian essence. I like the idea of sort of romanticism and moments of just escape from the weight of reality sometimes, and that's definitely a theme that I did play with in the initial collection, because I feel like Namibia is such a romantic country, our landscapes, and just like places like this that you really just feel like a reprieve and a retreat. If that's what Namibia feels like, and to have a place like that be home, it's like it's the perfect space, an entire country as a space to sort of just reflect and plan and prepare to be who you want to be in the broader world.
Do you sometimes have anybody specific, let's say, to say maybe an aunt, and she had this confidence that I wanted to, when I was creating, I imagined like a confident woman somebody that was really close to you, that was influential in terms of like the creative process and having somebody in mind as you're creating?
I wanted to see everyone in it, including myself. So I kind of maybe designed from the perspective of like, this is something I would like, but something that my friend might like if they came over and needed something to borrow. And I also think I designed for moments. So what would it be like to show up here, and what would you want to look and feel like? Yeah.
Oh, that's really beautiful. When it's all said and done, what do you need more of?
That's a weird question. Do we really need more? Honestly, in this moment, I don't think there's anything I need more of. maybe peace. And yeah, just like I always feel like, you know how people say that the purpose of life is to be happy, and I feel like happiness is a little bit overrated, because just having peace to me is good enough. It's neither here nor there. It's just like, you know, peace.
And what does that look like? If like having peace, what does that look like for you?
Again, that idea of like being able to sleep at night, knowing that you woke up that morning and did the best that you could, was kind to other people, tried to help other people, and did your best as a human being. And then you get to, God willing, wake up and try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's peace.
And I think that's a beautiful way of ending this session. And I don't want to add or take away, because it's absolutely phenomenal. Because when I think of peace, I also, and very close to what you said, I think, first of all, being kind to people, very important, but also just being content in terms of the life that I've had, bad and good. At the end of the day, being able to go to bed and being happy that both existed.
Exactly.
And then I did my best with this gift that is life that I had to, you know, be a better human being into the world. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. And I think you've got really wonderful values. And I know that you're channeling these values through this brand. But I know that this is something that you also embody as a person. And I think you are just absolutely phenomenal.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasant surprise to get this invite. Thank you.
You're welcome. This has been another session of Uninterrupted.